I'm currently 16 years old and I have $50,000 saved. That is cash, that is real money that I can pull out at any time, taxes paid and everything. That's real tangible money that I made myself. And I'll get a little bit more into how I did that and the more specific methods that I got to do that that I went through to do that. I already talked about that in previous videos, but more so I want to kind of give interesting perspectives that I have as a result of this interesting situation that I'm in, because that is savings. That is not the total amount of money I've made. I've spent some of it, but I have $50,000 sitting in savings right now. Almost all of it, I'd say about 97% of it is invested in the stock market right now, and then the rest is tied up in other assets or just liquid as cash. And the first thing that I just kind of wanted to the first crazy change that started to happen to me was that it just opened up almost everything for me. So I kind of wanted to experiment and be more creative and kind of try a lot of new things as any child would want to do. So having that desire, I wanted to, let's say I wanted to try this new freaking powder, like this new tea powder. Like I wanted matcha a while ago, like 3 years ago before it was popular. And then I wanted to try getting a gym membership. I wanted to try getting like an e-bike or something. I wanted to try like so many different things. And the thing is that anything that you do, whether it's freaking skincare or hygiene or health or food or literally anything, it's all paywalled. Just anywhere that you go in life, there's always a paywall. There might be something free that you can do. Like if you want to freaking do skincare, then you could wash your face. That's free. But there's always a paywall to like get better at it. Like you can always paywall your way through anything. And I hope that you've probably get what I'm talking about and have experienced this yourself, where it's just like anything that you do, if you want to kind of get out of your comfort zone, then it's going to require some amount of money. If you want to get into photography, you have to buy camera equipment. If you want to, I've given examples already. If you want to redecorate your room, if you want to change up your fashion or your clothes style, if you want to get a nicer chair, like, can you see this? Can you see my Herman Miller Aeron? There you go, you can see it a bit. If you want to get a nicer chair to, set yourself up for not having back pain, becoming more like flexible and being more mobile, then that's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to require some amount of money at least. Like everything, it just requires an investment. If you want to freaking drive anywhere, then gas being $4 a gallon, you have to pay for that. So everything requires money, and I hope they've realized that. And the thing is that if you're a teenager, you can kind of ask your parents for money. Obviously, you could call them. You could say, "Can you give me $50? Can you transfer money to my account?" Or before you head out, you say, "Can I have a few 20s?" Or if you're, you could spend some time saving up. You could ask your parents. You could help your parents out, do some chores, do some help, and kind of do a trade with them. And I exchange some help for, I give you some help and you give me some money in return, and you can kind of have a deal like that, or maybe a system, maybe an allowance, something like that. But it really gives you a different sense of independence when you have your own money and you can do things yourself, and you're more independent, and there's less blame that you could put. You could say, "Oh, I'm just a kid. I can't pay for that. I don't have that kind of money. My job doesn't pay me enough." And it's a different thing when you're making minimum wage at a job, where you start seeing a piece of clothing that's $20 and you're like, that's 2 hours of work. It's different from that. And when you're making your own money through, let's say, your own business, or what I do, which is reselling cameras. I resell on Facebook Marketplace, and I make, from what I do, I make roughly, on, let's say, on the safe end, I make about $50 to $100 an hour from what I do, and I work maybe 1 to 3 hours a day. So that's how the math checks out on that, and it makes me a lot. It makes me about $3,000 a month very comfortably. Currently, it's about $5,000 a month, and it's pretty easy. I have a car that's electric, so I don't have to worry about gas, and then it has self-driving on it. It's a Tesla, and I have that paid outright, so it just takes me places without me having to do anything. It's a pretty good system. So I'm not telling you to copy or kind of look at what I do and, you know, make a clone of it frame for frame. But I'm trying to say that you should have your own thing. You should have your own way of making money. You could start a car detailing company. You can. I've tried just about 40 businesses, and every single one of them failed. It's about 38 after I've written them down and counted them all. Some of them have just been ideation and research. Some of them I've been like, this is the one business. This is what's gonna make me a freaking millionaire. And every single one of them, almost every single one of them, failed. And reselling is kind of the only thing that's made me a significant amount of money. I've tried. I'll list out a few of them right now. I've tried an advertising agency. I've tried drop shipping like twice, and I got pretty deep on both of those. I also tried vending machines. I tried. I wanted to open up a laundromat. I don't even know where I was going to get the funds for that. I wanted to start like a food truck. Literally everything under the sun. I did 3D printing. I did investing. I did meme stocks. It's a lot. I tried over the years because I was like, I could make my goal fitness or something. I could make my goal like becoming more social or becoming better looking or becoming, more attractive, or it could be any goal. But I looked into those and I realized if I wanted to make progress in those, I need to get money from somewhere to fund those things. So it was kind of like the door was money that opens up everything. And once you make your own money, people look at you different. They respect you more. They're like, he's in a position. He's put himself in a much better position for his future. He can probably do a lot more. He can fund a lot more things. He can have a lot more fun. He can. For example, yesterday I went to Topgolf with a couple of buddies. I didn't have to worry about, where am I going to get the money from. It's just not something that I have to think about, because I played Topgolf there and I get some food. We got some food and we played for about 2 hours, and the amount of money that it costed, I made it in about 30 minutes. In fact, I made that money while I made money to pay the Topgolf off while I was playing at Topgolf. And it was pretty surreal because the other people that I was with had to basically choke up like cash in one way or another, either by asking their parents or by various, small things that they do here and there to kind of just get enough cash to pay for it themselves. And it makes me feel bad a little bit, like they're holding up like essentially crumpled up money. And I don't mean to feel like, I don't mean to seem like I feel like I'm better than them, but it's just like when you're in that position, if you want to do anything, you have to find a way to choke up cash in order to do it. You have to work for it. You have to, if you want to seriously get into, for example, photography, I know this because I sell a bunch of cameras. If you want a nice camera, it's going to be around about a few $100. There's cameras at all kinds of price points, but the cheapest that you're going to get a usable camera is about $150. And they don't really come cheaper than that for a usable camera. Mostly they're like $250 for like 150 to 250, and it goes up all the way to 1,000, 2,000, and then 3,000. So if you want to start photography, then you need to put in, let's say, 25 hours of labor into your job, and then get taxed on all that, and you end up with like $200. And then you need to pay off your gas to go commute to work, and then you have to pay off freaking tires for your car. You have to pay off, let's say, some fun that you want to have with your friends. You want to pay off a new shirt that you wanted to buy, and you end up with like $100 after strictly saving, and now you have to work even more, and you end up having to work about 50 hours just to get a half decent camera, and it limits you in your ability to go out there and try different things and escape your comfort zone, and it gives you a comfortable excuse. My parents are not willing to fund anything for me, and it's my job doesn't make me that much money. And the nice thing is, what feels so nice is to stay in a position where you're comfortable. So it's when you're, let's say, working a job or you're just finding ways to make money, it's just comfortable enough, probably for you if you're still in that position, for you to stay in that position, and it's just not bad enough that you just want to quit and you just want to say, F this, and you just want to do your own thing and go out there and get out of your comfort zone, start a new business or try something new in order to try to get to that $50 to $100 an hour that For example, I have a friend that does car detailing, the example that I gave at the start of the video, and he makes over, about $100 an hour, but he works significantly more labor hours than me. Sorry. Yeah, he just works significantly more than me, so he tends to make more, and he's been working on growing that business for more time than I've been doing my reselling. It's more of a long-term play on his part. And in another thing that I wanted to add, which is having that kind of reserve of cash that you build up and making more money than you really need in order to meet like your needs for fun, for hobbies, for exploring new things, and you start naturally building up savings because you just don't need to make that much. I don't know if this applies. Quick tangent. I don't know if this applies to everybody, but I just wanted to start making money in order to put it in these 100 different areas, and I started making it, and I'm like, man, I have this money now. It's nicer if I just save it. I don't want to just go out and spend it all. And so I've naturally saved about 95% of the amount of the money that I've made. And I pay for groceries, I pay for my rock climbing membership, I pay for my gym membership, I pay for basically everything myself. I pay for anything going on with my car myself, like a window tint, for example. I had to pay for that. And so, or tires, window tint, any repairs, any service, anything that I do myself, it comes out of my own money, not because I have to, but it's by choice. It's by, once again, your parents seeing you as more independent, by other people seeing you as more independent and more free, because money is, you probably want to make money to have more freedom. And what's the point that I wanted to get at? Yeah, so when you naturally start saving up money and you start building up this fund and you start having, you start living below your means, you start making more than you're actually living by, it gives you this natural fund to fund bigger projects. So I'm currently working on a much larger project, a much more long-term project, where I'm working on an AI app, which requires an iOS developer. It requires developing an iOS. We need to spend about $800 on a MacBook Pro with an M2 Pro chip, I believe, an M2 Pro or an M3 Pro chip, which is it's a MacBook from 2023. MacBook Pro, perfect condition. We had to go out and buy expensive Apple equipment because we need to make an iOS app for this AI project, and that was not even anything close to the start of the funds. We also had to purchase a Mac Mini for its own purpose. We had to go out and purchase a Mac Mini. We had to go out and purchase like Claude Pro Ultra or something, which was like $200 a month, and then Cursor, which was like $20 a month, and then we have to pay for API keys. We have to pay for like domain names and stuff like that. So it's thousands and thousands that goes into this. And what having your own money does is it really gives you that kind of moat where you have a little bit of breathing room, and you can make mistakes, and you can make mistakes as a normal human does, and it's not going to be the end of the world, and you can move on from that. And that's just not something that can happen when you work a job, because buying a MacBook Pro with a certain high performing chip, because a MacBook Air just won't cut it. It's just too slow. It just won't work, because we actually bought a MacBook Air earlier and it was just too slow. It just didn't make sense to keep it, and no work was going to get done if we had that. So we had to scrap that idea, and we had to buy a MacBook Pro, which was double the price. And if you think about it, MacBook Pro, if you're working, let's say, a $15 an hour job after taxes, let's call it 11 or 12 bucks, that's going to be almost 70 hours that you have to put in. So that's, how much is that? So 40 hours a week is like a full-time job, but let's say you're in school, let's say in college, university, something like that, then you're probably working part-time closer to 15 or 20 hours a month or a week. So it's going to take you about 2 months of pure, 1.5 to 2 months of pure saving. And that's not mentioning your own funds, your own spending it just for leisure, spending it on yourself. Let's say you owe your parents something, you're paying for groceries, or you're paying for gas, or whatever it is. So it's going to take closer to 3 or 4 months. And by that time, you're going to lose the motivation. You're going to lose the idea. Things change in a quarter of a month, or a quarter of a year. That's a full quarter. That's like not a short amount of time, and things get in the way during that time. You could lose your job. You're kind of at the whim of your boss, and the whole time that you're working there, it's causing issues. You have much less time. You have much less freedom. You have to clock in at certain hours. You have to sleep. You have to deal with less sleep at night. That's just kind of the sacrifice you have to make. And essentially, this has brought me to the point where it's like, if you're a man, naturally your role is that you have to provide, and you have to kind of, you have to provide for your family, and you have to kind of take care of the people, and you can't really be a leech. You can't really be dependent. That's kind of the job of the other gender. And that's not to say that that's a bad or a good thing. That's just kind of how it works. It's just one is more of the provider, and one is more of the caregiver, and one is more of the they have different roles. Whatever you want to think of equality, modern equality and stuff, it's just a matter of the fact that men and women have different roles, and if you're a man, then you need to kind of provide, and if you're not making your own money, then I would go as far to say that you're not a real man, and it's probably causing issues in your life, and people are looking at you as lower because you're still depending on them. Your parents still look at you as a child who still kind of goes to them for food, for funding, for help, for things like that. And when your parents look at you as a child rather than someone that they should respect, and someone that they should kind of perceive as more of an equal. I shouldn't say that. I'm not trying to say that you and your parents should look at each other as equals, but I'm saying that there should be a mutual respect. There should be kind of your parents should respect you, knowing that you know your own, you're not stupid, you know things, you don't need as much help, you're independent, and you want to go to your parents every now and then for advice or to talk or something like that, but you're not a leech upon them. You're giving almost as much as you're taking. And I think if you're a man, and if you want to call yourself a man, then you need to start giving about as much as you're taking. In fact, even more, because the more that you give, the more that you're going to receive back. It's just kind of like a rule of nature. I've never seen an example of a person that just, well, I have, but it's just kind of a law that if you keep giving and giving and giving and giving, in the right places correctly, I'm not saying to, obsess over a bop or something, but I'm saying if you keep helping and you keep providing and you keep contributing, it's just kind of a rule of this society that we live in, that you're going to receive something back one way or another. Someone is going to see that work that you put in. Someone's going to see that respect that you give to others. Someone's going to see that honesty that you have. And that's kind of how money works. Money is just the exchange of value. When you are valuable to someone, they want to pay you money. If you have something of value, then people will want to pay money for it because it's valuable. It solves problems for them. It alleviates pain for them. And so if you make your own money, then you can start spending that, and you can start investing in things that are going to alleviate your pain, and things that are going to solve your problems, and that's going to essentially upgrade your life, and it's going to let you continue to progress rather than stagnation. And that's kind of the point that I want to get at, because as a man, I'm sure that you want to improve every day. That's just kind of the natural goal seeking drive that we have. So yeah, that's all I want to talk about today. Have a good night, guys.